Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. I'm your host, Kofi Anyemedu. Jacob Hicks is a coach and keynote speaker with over a decade of experience transforming lives and businesses. He has a knack for identifying what drives lasting success and delivering implementable strategies to help clients achieve these strategies. He is also known for his practical insights and engaging storytelling that leave audiences inspired. Known for his strong follow-up systems and mindset-driven coaching, Jacob empowers clients across industries to overcome challenges, implement sustainable systems, and move forward with confidence. Jacob is my guest today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. Welcome to my show, Jacob.
Kofi, thank you so much. What a great introduction. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with your journey. What really inspired you to take the leap into entrepreneurship?
Well, I realized that, as you said in the introduction, I've got 10 years of experience in sales and a variety of other things. But I realized about a year and a half-ish ago or so, I was sitting down with a mentor of mine to see if coaching in general made sense for me because I've always been very interested in personal development, doing things better and pursuing things to a higher degree more efficiently. And during that conversation, he said, listen, Jacob, we can definitely work on coaching with you, get you to where you want to go, but I think you should be a coach. And that was kind of a curveball for me. I had never really thought about being a coach before, but in reflecting on, my life and what I'd done professionally and personally, I realized that to some level, I had always been coaching. I had been kind of the guy that my friends or family would come to saying, hey, I'm thinking about pursuing a new job or starting a business of some sort, and I wanted to talk through it. I was always kind of the guy they talked to about those kind of things. And it's always been, it's kind of become a real sweet spot for me where, I love selling. I like sales. I've been doing it a long time. But what it really kind of lights me up and wakes me up in the morning is helping people to be better, to help them pursue their goals in a more efficient or just a better way, and help them to really drive towards the vision that they're building for themselves.
So let's talk about your entrepreneurial experience. Can you walk us through some key milestones or turning points in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so I guess kind of the first leap was going into my business full time. It was kind of a scary thing, of course, as it is for a lot of people, but it felt right. So I've been full time for quite a while now. But really kind of the first, kind of breakthrough for me was when I started my own podcast, actually. I've always really, really loved getting to chat with people one-on-one, to get to dive into them, into their journey. Similar to how we are today. But diving into people and figuring out, just understanding them a little bit better. And I've met some really, really incredible people that way. And it's been really fun coming on podcasts like yours, Kofi, where I have people reach out to me. If anybody listening, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or through my website. But I have people reach out to me sometimes saying, hey, I heard you on such and such podcast. You were talking about, this mindset piece or this sales strategy or whatever it happened to be. And they've told me that, hey, I've decided to experiment with that, or I've changed kind of how I'm doing business because of what you said. So it's been really fantastic.
I always tell people there's a lot of power in podcasting.
Yes.
If you can do it and do it well. Remain consistent on this podcasting journey.
Love it.
All right. So what was one of the toughest challenges you faced earlier on, and how did you overcome this challenge?
So, I guess, kind of probably the biggest challenge that I faced early on was, and we kind of talked about a little bit already, is the mindset piece. I'm a really, really big believer that in life in general, but then also in business and in sales and probably most everything else, I believe that we have to win first in our minds, and then we have to go to war, kind of like Sun Tzu said. So, I really believe that. Kind of like another quote that comes to mind is Henry Ford. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So, if you really truly believe in what you're doing, you just have to kind of find that mindset, you have to find that grit. And early on, it's like you always have self-doubt, I feel like. The better you get, hopefully that lessens to some degree. But, you have to show up. You have to show up with intentionality every single day, particularly when you are a one-man show like I am. You have to, if I don't show up and do the work, then the work doesn't get done. There's nobody else that I can call in to help me out. So you just got to get up and do it. And it takes some doing to be that intentional every single day.
So just do it. Take action. Just do it.
Do it.
Just
Absolutely.
do it. Just do it. My guest once again is Jacob Hicks. He's sharing his entrepreneurial experience and his expertise with us today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. So, Jacob, tell me, you talk a lot about storytelling in sales. Why do you think storytelling is such a powerful tool?
Storytelling it's powerful in sales, of course, it's powerful in business, but it's just powerful in the world in general. I mean, what are we doing most of the time if we're not working? We're probably hanging out with our friends and talking about whatever happens to be on our minds at the time. Maybe we're at home watching a TV show, or maybe we're going out to the movies. Maybe we're reading a book. I mean, stories are everywhere, and they're really what moves us. And I believe that's what moves us in life, but then also in sales and in business, because we have to understand what the person across the table from us is feeling and why they are feeling a particular pain point. And storytelling is really, really powerful in that, where we can share, hey, based on, what you've told me, I've had a client in the past that struggled with, something similar to yourself, and here's how we dealt with it, and here's what the ultimate result was for them. So that really helps put things into perspective for people. So being a good storyteller, I think, is critical in life in general, to really relay what you're going through, but also where you want to go.
Okay, so how can entrepreneurs craft authentic stories that resonate with potential clients or customers?
So a big one where I kind of always start people is finding out, or starting at least to find out what your vision is. I think this is really, really critical, because a lot of times when people start working with me, they say, hey, Jacob, I'm a salesperson, been doing this for however long it's been. And I want to generate more income. I want to generate more revenue, which, I mean, that's absolutely fine. That's a great goal to have. But we start to dig into why. I mean, just generating more money is fine, but that's what I call a soft why. Meaning that in business and in sales, like it's kind of a roller coaster. It's up and down. And when you're having a hard time, you're not getting the closings that you want, or maybe you have a long sales cycle. So it's, 3-6 months isn't uncommon between closing a deal. I've had guys like that before. What are you going to do to keep yourself moving? And just saying, I want more money isn't going to do it. So we always start with your future vision. So really, where is it that you want to go? Now, I really look at it as like the analogy that I use, it's like building a boat. So when you're asking yourself these sometimes harder questions or deeper questions that require more thought, like the one that I've got a process that I use, I call it the interview, where every time somebody comes on, the first kind of activity that we do together, among other things, is called the interview, where they put themselves, hopefully, a future vision, where they're saying, okay, it's 5 years from now, what does an ideal day look like for you? And really digging and not just saying, hey, I wake up, I go to work, I make so much money, I hang out with the wife and the kids or whatever. Those are fine things, but you really need to dig down deep and figure out, okay, what does my true ideal day really look like? And really exploring that, because that will help drive the emotions and drive the story ultimately. So when you're asking yourself these questions, I look at it as those questions are what helps to build your boat. That's the actual boat itself. And then the activity that you do day in and day out, whether it's, if you're in sales, you're cold calling and prospecting, and you have to do that very consistently. Those are the things that help the boat to float, but you have to know where you're going over the long term.
Very, very true. So you've been interacting with a lot of people in various sectors. In your interaction and in your great number of years interacting with people from the various backgrounds, what are some common mistakes that you think people make when they are trying to use storytelling in sales?
So something common, particularly in sales, is people think that they need to be the one talking. Particularly if you're a newer to the sales profession, if you're a salesperson, you're new, you generally think oh, I need to be the one talking. I need to talk about the features. I need to talk about why it's going to be beneficial to you, all of that kind of stuff. But when we're talking about telling the stories, you need to find the right time and place. And usually that right time and place is going to be in between a bunch of questions. Now, it's very common where people think, all right, I've got this great story, I've got this great product, I need to just talk it up. Now, you do need to be able to talk about it, of course, but it's been proven that, generally speaking, in sales, we need to identify 4 pain points before someone will do business with you, generally speaking. And in order to find those 4 pain points, you need to ask at least 12 questions. And if you aren't asking questions and then shutting up, being quiet, and actually listening to their answers and trying to understand them and asking follow-up questions, then ultimately, you're going to lose.
Very interesting. So let's talk about follow-ups. So why do so many sales opportunities fall through the cracks?
Honestly, simply put, it's because of what you just said, follow-up. I've seen stats on this where salespeople, those are the folks I would argue are the people paid to follow up. Generally speaking, 1 out of every 2 salespeople aren't following up more than once. And another stat that's really critical here is that most business, again, broad strokes here, most business is 1 in 5 or more follow-ups. Now, where people can get confused sometimes and kind of get intimidated almost by the like saying following up with somebody is thinking that, okay, Kofi, I meet you, somewhere out, we hit it off, we exchange contact information. We think that maybe business could make sense. So most people think that follow up is like, Jacob's going to call you and then he's going to call you once a week or however often until you do business with me. Now that is kind of true in a sense, but you don't want to be like that pushy salesperson. You don't want to be the guy saying, hey, Kofi, it's great to meet you. It's Jacob again. Are you ready to do business? I'm still selling my stuff. You don't want to be that guy. You want to follow up from a place of value, meaning that, hey, Kofi, you said you were struggling with something. I think that I might have a solution for you. Folks that have been in a similar situation usually ask these 3 to 5 or whatever questions in my experience. And I just wanted to send over those answers to you. Would that be beneficial, do you think? And you can say yes or no, but that's just providing value. That's not saying like, hey, do you want to buy stuff now? That's just saying like, hey, here's some more potential interesting information that I think could help you in making that decision. And that's really what you want to do. You want to follow up consistently, but from a place of value. So offering them good information or good insight every single time you interact.
Okay, so I want us to build on your submission and try and make things better. Try and work on our follow-ups. So how can we set up a good kind of follow-up system? Can you share some practical tips and
Yeah.
tools with us? How we can
Yeah.
develop very valuable and very efficient follow-up systems?
So there's kind of a couple of pieces here. So the first piece is a tool. It's a client resource manager, a CRM commonly. Now I really always strongly advise anybody if you're in business and you deal with more than one person at a time, then you need to have a CRM. A CRM will allow you to store all of your client information. It will also allow you to include notes. So saying, hey, Kofi and I, we talked today about whatever, those kind of things. You want to make sure you're keeping in front of those kind of people. A good CRM, at least ones that I always recommend, will have automations, meaning that, okay, Kofi and I, we met at whatever. Now he's in my system. So now he's going to be getting some automations, whether it be maybe it'll automatically add a task for me, whatever day it is, to give him a call or shoot him a text, or it will automatically send you emails. Now that's really critical because it's kind of like a second brain is the way I think of it. It allows you to focus on being a salesperson and closing more business, hopefully, as opposed to making sure you're staying on top of your administration stuff and just saying, oh, okay, well, it's been 2 weeks or whatever since we talked, so I'm going to kick him another email. Now, the really key piece here is what you said before, is it's establishing the follow-up systems. Now, when I say a follow-up system, it means that, okay, I meet Kofi out someplace. What is my very next step? Like, what do I do next? And most people don't know the answer. And that's okay. But what I recommend, at least starting, is what I call my 10 by 10. Meaning that you will, over the course of 10 weeks, I will interact with you, Kofi, my new potential prospect, 10 times. Now, that doesn't mean, again, I'm going to call you every single day. But for once a week, for once a week for 10 weeks, maybe I'll have 2 calls, maybe I'll have a couple of texts, then I'll have a handful of emails. And all of those things are hopefully driving a ton of value. Now, the really critical piece here is consistency. And it's consistency even when I'm not getting responses. Meaning that, Kofi, you and I meet once, I call you, I email you, I text you, I get no response. I'm going to continue to follow up with you. Because remember, most business is one in at least minimum of 5 follow-ups, if not significantly more. So the more consistent you are with that follow-up piece, even when you're getting no response, then the more likely you are to win business. I mean, if you are a salesperson and you've been in the business for a year or two, you'll know people, if not have the stories yourself, where you have interacted with somebody, never heard from them again, kept following up, and then eventually they say, okay, I'm ready to do business. So stay consistent.
Stay consistent. Stay consistent. So, Jacob, let's still dwell on being consistent, staying consistent. So, how do you balance consistency with not being pushy when following up with potential clients?
So, I mean, I think really when it comes down to it, when we're talking about, like, at least in my mind, the used car salesman can get a bad rap for being that really pushy used car salesman. So when you do want to balance it out. So the way that I always suggest do it is if you are following up from a place of value with the intent to help that person, meaning that you believe that your service or your product actually helps these people, then I think you're absolutely in the clear. Now, that doesn't mean that you do have to kind of watch your verbiage sometimes, meaning that all right, Kofi and we've been interacting and stuff. We think it makes sense. We sit down to close the deal, and then we get there, we talk, we're going, and then I get what's called past the close, meaning that I don't actually say, Kofi, do you want to buy this? Or something to that effect. So now, again, it doesn't need to be pushy. You want to accept the answer that you're given, handle some objections if you're in that kind of position. But as long as, again, you are following up from a place of value, then I think you're absolutely fine.
Follow up from a place of value. And these are the nuggets my guest Jacob Hicks is sharing with us today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. So Jacob, you emphasize the role of mindset in achieving sales success. Why is mindset so foundational in your coaching?
So, I mean, it's foundational in a couple of different ways. So first, when I'm dealing with like an entrepreneur, for example, most of the time, entrepreneurs created a business of some sort, and it's not like it's not a sales business. It's like a marketing business or whatever the case might be. And usually those kind of folks, they don't want to be a salesperson. They started a marketing firm. They want to do marketing, right? But you do have to sell to some degree. Now, a lot of times when it comes to the mindset shift with these kind of folks, they need to get out of the mindset that if I call you or message you or email you 2 or 3 times with no response, that means I'm going to be bugging you. And again, you're not going to be bugging them if you come from a place of value. The true people that don't want to work with you will tell you that. They'll tell you no. I'm not interested in whatever it is that you're offering. But most of the time, people are not going to tell you that. I'm telling you, like most of the time, they're not going to tell you that. Most of the time when they're saying, I just don't think I can do this right now, it's just that. It's a timing issue. It's a time thing or a money thing. So just being able to handle those kind of things. Now, on the sales side, when we're talking to true salespeople, the mindset shifts, and really the truth is, it's true in entrepreneurship as well, but it's also true in sales. It comes down to grit. It's how bad do you want it? And like I said, that's why we do that future visiting exercise I mentioned earlier. Because if you don't know where you're going, then how can you ever know if you get there, let alone how to get there? So you have to make sure that those things are in mind, particularly when you're maybe in a slump where you're just not getting the deals closed, you're not getting the meetings set. So you just have to keep going and keep your mind on the actual long-term prize, which isn't, again, just making more money.
All right, so stay focused and keep going.
Mm.
One thing that has hindered people's success or progress when it comes to sales is the issue of fear. The issue of fear. So, what mindset shifts do people need to take to go from being afraid of sales to actually enjoying it and really achieving success?
So, when it comes to fear, this is a pretty dynamic issue that people can struggle with. So figuring out really what it is that we're afraid of. Some people really struggle to just walk up to a stranger and say hi. Like having like those kind of fears. So the way that I always kind of do it is you have to like play a game with yourself. Meaning that if you're going to a networking event and you're just not that kind of thinking about going and talking to all of these people you don't know kind of gives you some anxiety. We have to start understanding like what does it mean to actually have a win still. So let's say your job really requires you to go to these networking events. So let's say instead of talking to 100 people, which would drain you, exhaust you, just that kind of leaves you like a ball and like an anxiety knot in your chest, then let's set the bar a little bit lower. Let's say, okay, we're not going to go in there and talk to 100 people. Instead, we're going to go in there and we're going to see if we can find one quality connection. And that doesn't mean find one person you're definitely going to do business with. It could be that. But instead, let's say, hey, I met this one person who I don't really know if we're going to ever do business or not, but this was a really great person for me to know. They know everybody, or it's just a really good connection to have, and maybe they can refer you some business at some point. Because what this is doing is this is going to stretch ourselves. Again, it's kind of like, I think of it as the New Year's Eve like resolution like mindset, where you haven't been working out all year, but you decide January 1st, I'm going to go to the gym a whole bunch. I'm going to eat it really, really healthy. Instead of doing that, going from 0 to 100, we need to go from 0 to 1. So we set that bar lower, where we go into the networking event, we're going to find one quality connection, and then we can leave if we want to, or if we're doing okay, maybe we find another one. But then we start to set the bar a little bit higher. So, okay, we've gone to a handful of networking events, we found one quality connection, we've tried to be nurturing to them. So now we're starting to feel a little more comfortable with that. Okay, so we're stretching ourselves a little bit further now. So instead of going to a networking event and finding one quality connection, now we're going to shoot for 2 or 3. And this will allow us to stretch a little bit more and a little bit more outside of our comfort zone. So that's really kind of the key point to all of this.
Okay. All right. So in your opinion, why is sales a skill that everyone, not just entrepreneurs, should master?
So maybe I'm biased here, but I really believe that sales is everywhere, regardless of if you're a salesperson or not. Now, I think the really easiest example for somebody who's like, I'm not a salesperson, I've never sold in my life, is, well, have you had the same job all of your life? Have you ever switched jobs? Have you ever had to interview for a new job? And if the answer is ever yes, which most of the time it would be, then you are selling. And I believe that in the interview process, you are selling and you are buying, meaning that you, as the candidate, you need to sell yourself to this company, to this organization, and show them that, yes, I am the qualified, good candidate that will get the work done the way you're looking. And then the company, the organization, needs to sell themselves to you, and they say you need to buy from them, saying like, yeah, this is going to be a good fit for me and for my life and for my career. So again, I'm a really, really big believer that sales is everywhere, regardless of if you're a salesperson or not.
Yeah, so we need a skill beyond business. So you gave a very practical example of interviews. Yeah, so we need to go sell and try and purchase something. So we all need to
Absolutely.
be good at this. We should have that skill in our back pockets.
Absolutely.
All right. So still building on your submission. So what's one small action someone can take today to become more confident in selling themselves or their ideas?
So I think the easiest way, like if I was going to give somebody one point to say, do this thing to feel a little bit more confident in it, is I would say prepare. Now, there is a caveat to this where a lot of people can say, I'm going to only prepare. I'm going to prepare and prepare and prepare, and I'm never actually going to do the thing. You have to do the thing, but you have to be prepared for it. Meaning that, let's say we're in a sales position, okay? Some of these things could be practicing a cold call, doing some role playing with somebody. Say, hey, Kofi, you've been doing this for a while. For the next 15 minutes, can I just practice some cold calling on you? Just because the key here is you don't want your live scenarios where you're actually dealing with a potential client to be when you are actually practicing. So you want to practice on your own time, practice what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. And I said, like, some people hate the word scripts. I still really believe in scripts. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to sit down and memorize something, but you do need to understand, okay, these are the 4 or 5 points I'm going to make, and here's how I'm going to say it. And I'm going to say those things out loud to actually see if I'm going to fumble my words, see if it really makes sense, see if it sounds like me. And then you also need to practice objection handling, meaning you make your offer, you make your pitch, and somebody says, well, I don't have time right now. Well, I don't have the money for it right now. How do you handle that? What's the next step? And if you're a salesperson that's trying to close more business, it can't just be like, well, they said no. It's like, okay, well, you need to ask more questions, saying like, okay, you said you don't have the money for it right now. Okay, well, like what kind, start asking some more questions, following up with them, or offer them a more entry level price point for something a little lesser, saying like, okay, well, you said you wanted this, but you said that, the price doesn't necessarily make sense for you right now. Well, how about we take away X, Y, and Z and try this price instead? So how does that work for you? So dealing with some of those things. So again, preparation, I think, is really, really critical in sales. But at the end of the day, you have to get out there and you have to get boots on the ground and you have to try selling. You have to do it.
So get your boots on the ground.
Do
So
it.
we're just about wrapping up our conversation, but you've been on this journey for over a decade. What indeed are the key lessons you've picked up on this journey you would like to share with my viewers and audience?
Oh, man. Oh, I think, there's, quite a few, of course. I think establishing your sales systems is really, really key. If you meet somebody out, you have to know what your next step is if you want to try to cultivate a relationship there. One of my favorite kind of mini lessons is, and I still do this to this day, I learned this, 10 years ago now. If a task is going to take me 5 minutes, I do it. If it takes me 5 minutes, I don't push it off till tomorrow. Just sit down and just get it done. And like those kind of things will add up really, really big over time.
Okay, so before I sign off, let's create 2 scenarios and see how you advise people in such a situation. So let's start off with a budding entrepreneur who is afraid of selling. The person is starting off and his business, he has to sell products and in some cases services, but he's afraid of selling. What would be your advice to such a person?
So, without a little more detail, you have to do it. And like that doesn't mean that you need to be, cold calling every single day and driving a ton of business and out there pounding the pavement and knocking on doors. What it can mean is that, okay, I met Kofi out at this networking event. I think we really hit it off. I got his contact information. What are my next steps? I know my exact next steps for over the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is. I know how I'm going to be interacting with him or trying to interact with him. So establishing those systems, it does what I call selling without selling, meaning that whatever service I am offering to you The fact that I'm staying in front of you over a longer period of time means I'm significantly more likely to earn business when you are ready to buy. So again, just staying in front of people consistently and providing value that they'll help them goes a really, really long way and doesn't force you to in these really hardcore selling issues.
Two quick questions before we wrap up.
Yeah.
One other person in business has also been around for, let's say, a year, 4 or 5, doing relatively well, but then realizes that, yes, they are not doing so well in the aspect of sales and marketing. What would be your advice to such a person or such a business?
So with those kind of things, when like they're doing okay, but they think that they could be doing better, we need to be figuring out where we think we're missing. Meaning that, again, Kofi, I meet you out at some place, I get your contact information, I start staying in front of you, I start closing business or whatever. Like, where are we ultimately losing? Do we feel like we need to go deeper on the relationships that we already have? Are we selling to them like once and then we're not really seeing much out of them after that? Are we, meeting somebody out, but then again, we don't have our follow-up systems in place. So we need to make sure that we're establishing a longer term drip campaign of some sort to make sure we're staying in front of those folks. We just need to like really establish like where the gap is. And like the difficulty can be like the data, where that's why like the CRM is so critical, because it'll also allow you saying, okay, well, you only interact with that person 3 times. So like actually being able to say where the gap is, or running some of those numbers over the course of 3, 4, 5 months will really help you to dig into some of those things. And that way you can start experimenting. Experimenting is really, really key in life, I think, but also in sales. Meaning that, like, let's say, for example, like I'm doing well, I'm closing business, but I'm not closing very much. Like maybe my conversion rate from, not business to business is 10% or whatever the number is in your industry. So start trying out some new closes, asking more questions, asking questions in a different way, digging in a little bit more, like trying to experiment with some of those things to get yourself more data to see what is ultimately going to work for you.
Okay, so before I sign off, what will be your last words to my audience?
Honestly, the last words would be to do it. Like just get out there and try, and be willing to be told no, because no most of the time is going to be not yet. So just get out there, do it, try, and keep trying, because that's really the name of the game. Try and try again.
Try, and try again. If you do not succeed, keep trying, keep trying. Take action, keep trying. And these are the last words from my guest, Jacob Hicks. So, Jacob, thank you so much for joining me today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. We wish you the very best.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you again.
All right. So this has been another exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. I'll come your way next time with another inspiring and exciting episode. I remain your host, Kofi Anyemedu. As always, do take good care of yourself, and let's continue to keep hope alive. Cheers.